This is the one, then. I'm surprised. A little bit ganglier and dirtier than I would have expected. Ah, well. Do you know why you're here in my tent? Indeed. But it seems you might not realize the full extent of exactly what's happening right now. Allow me to enlighten you. Earlier tonight, you were trying to enjoy yourself at a local tavern. A rather expensive one, as I hear it. Which of course is part of the reason that I'm so surprised that you look the way you do. Ah, I see. What a shame for you to scrimp and save to spend a night in luxury, only for all this bad fortune to befall you. Anyway, let's see. As I heard it, the tavern had a second floor, which is where you were. And, as it happened, it was also where my servant Garrick was. Yes, that's right. You see, I am a Dynax. Something similar to what you call a noble here in this land. I come from far to the west, bearing gifts for your small nation. I allowed most of my personal servants to go out and enjoy whatever pleasures this land could offer. And Garrick chose the exact same tavern at the table right next to you. As I was told, some sort of disagreement broke out between the two of you. I don't know what it was about, or who was the instigator, but that doesn't really matter. He pushed you, and you shoved him back. I'm sure you weren't expecting him to reel back as far as he did, and he went right over the balcony. Normally, it wouldn't have been a fatal fall, but it seems he fell right on his head. And once my guards learned of it, they found you and took you straight to me. I'm afraid that killing the servant of a Dynax is a grave, grave offense. In this land, a servant is only a lowly position. But in my land, a Dynax's personal servant is considered a high-ranking official. I'm sure by now you must realize what a precarious position you're in. Intentionally or not, you just caused the death of a visiting foreign dignitary. That's not the sort of thing that can be simply forgotten. According to your own laws, such an act is punishable by death. However, given it was my servant, I'm in a position to punish you according to my own laws instead. In my land, when someone is killed, the traditional punishment is for the killer to become, as we call it, the victim's life proxy. A life proxy must see to it that whatever the victim wanted to do in his life is completed. And as my servant, naturally Garrick's life's work was to execute my will. In other words, you can avoid an execution, but only if you take his place as my servant. Of course, a life proxy doesn't gain any of the perks or benefits of the role, only the responsibilities. I'm afraid there's simply no way around it. Garrick had a family, you know, not to mention friends and people who respected him. They will expect the Dynax to do something about this. How am I to explain to them that not only has Garrick's life ended, but his legacy as well, when I could have done something about it? Your king certainly won't lift a finger to defend you. Rather, he's the one who would order your execution, unless I were to stop him. This country of yours is small, and bullied by your larger neighbors. Without the contributions I have been offering, you would have lost your independence long ago. He would do anything to remain in my favor. It must seem criminally unfair to be forced to make such a choice over a simple accident. And you're right, it is. But when fate casts the die, you can't change the result. You seem overwhelmed. I can't blame you for that. Guards, leave us. Give me some time alone with this poor wretched soul. I know that you must feel as though your life has ended, but this might actually be an opportunity. Bear with me for a moment and I'll explain. Among my people, there is a well-known story of how a Dynax's servant helped their master to ascend to the rank of High Dynax, the ruler of our people. As it happens, that servant was a life proxy, just like you. And also like you, they were from a foreign country. Quite the coincidence, isn't it? And where most would curse their fate, this servant instead devoted themselves to their new role. And once they came to revere their Dynax, they worked even harder. The story is a long one, so I'll spare you all the various exploits. But suffice to say, that servant lifted their master to High Dynax almost single-handedly, and that High Dynax became the greatest in our nation's history. Now, I'm not telling you all this to inspire you, nor am I trying to imply that you should be happy and carefree about this drastic change in your life. No, the point of telling you this is more pragmatic. You see, I have aspirations. I wish to become High Dynax. And to do that, I need the current High Dynax to recognize me as her successor. Currently, some other Dynax is next in line, but that can change at any time. And as it happens, my people are strong believers in omens. It's not uncommon for a High Dynax to be chosen based on a similarity to our past rulers, though naturally they must also be a competent leader. Perhaps by now you realize what I'm saying. Purely by chance, I now have a link to my people's most beloved High Dynax. If you were to further the connection by appearing to be just as diligent and hard-working as the servant of legend, then my place as High Dynax would be all but guaranteed. And naturally, the better things go for me, the better things go for you. Being a life proxy means you'll have to start off with little in the way of amenities, but if you can prove to everyone that you deserve them, you can gradually earn all the luxuries that a High Dynax's servant deserves. Land, riches, and more. In particular, there's one thing I think you might be particularly interested in. You see, there's a very good reason I've been bringing gifts to your kingdom. I want to demonstrate that I can help provide for its needs. My hope, once I become High Dynax, is to make your little nation a tributary of mine. The beginnings of an empire, in fact. Oh, no, no, no. You misunderstand. Poor thing. You must be so used to being intimidated by the stronger, more military-minded nations that surround you that you don't realize that diplomacy can be peaceful. I'm not going to march in with an army and conquer your homeland. Rather, I plan to offer a deal. In exchange for the ability to direct your country's affairs and share in its profits, I plan to offer my nation's considerable resources to enrich it. Your home would blossom into the jewel of my new empire, protected by my armies and able to use my wealth to develop it until it becomes productive. And the best part is, I would like you to rule it. As a native to this country, but also my servant, you would be the perfect intermediary. You don't need to know anything about ruling a country. An advisor could handle all the day-to-day decisions. But you would have the authority to approve or forbid whatever you liked, and ensure that your homeland is treated fairly. Keep in mind all this is only an offer. You must be my servant, assuming you wish to keep your head. But if you are too intimidated by such grand aspirations, then I can keep your task simple, if dull. If you are to aid me in my ambitions, then I must be certain you are fully dedicated to it. Naturally, this is a large and important decision, and you don't need to give me an answer immediately. You may use the next week, until it is time for us to return to my homeland, to ponder your decision. Oh, and there is one other thing you may wish to consider. In the story I told you about, the legendary servant was something similar to what you would call a concubine to their High Dynax. It's not strictly a necessity for you to take up that role for the plan to work, but it would help. It's something to keep in mind, that's all. For the time being, you may speak to the guards outside the tent, and they will escort you to your new quarters. They won't be luxurious by any means, but they will have the necessities. I look forward to your decision, my new servant.